Hey Dungeon Crawlers, this is Dorks at Disadvantage, a D&D podcast by Dorks for Dorks, where we show you don't have to have a big group to have a great time playing D&D. And now, here's your hosts, Jennifer and Austin Caldwell. Hello everyone, and welcome to our introduction episode for the Dorks at Disadvantage podcast. My name is Austin. I am joined by the lovely Jennifer.
Hello, hello.
And the purpose of this episode is basically just introduce ourselves, introduce the podcast, talk a little bit about what we're trying to do here, and also have a little bit of fun. So we'll start out by describing ourselves a little bit, talk about what we like to do, who we are, and Jen, you want to start?
Sure. So my name is Jennifer. I'm 37 years old. So I started D&D just a couple years ago with my husband Austin here, and it's something that I've been wanting to play for a long time, but you know, it was really difficult to actually find games back in the day. Nobody was playing it, but now everyone is. So we were like, okay, let's give it a try. And we very quickly became obsessed with it. And so we just decided that we would start a podcast just really because it just seemed like fun. So I guess I would describe myself as a artistic nerd. I am a big movie buff. I love looking at paintings, and I love those little TikTok videos where they describe an artist and the painting that they did in full detail. I really enjoy that, and that's basically it. How about you, Austin?
Awesome. Over to you. My name is Austin. I am 38 years old, so I'm an old man compared to Jen over there.
I'm thriving.
Yes. Very young still. Very much in your prime. I am past it. Have knee pain. So, but yeah, I'm 38 years old. As Jen said, a couple years ago, we started trying to play D&D, and we're having a really hard time finding groups that would stay together or meet regularly. And funny story, not one but two of the DMs that we actually played under wound up being criminals. So that may be a story for another day. But true story on that.
I find that people have the wildest D&D stories on people that they get together with, and that's a lot of the reason why D&D doesn't work for people, because they go in it and everybody has their own worlds that they come from, and they have different opinions on how the game should be run, because that can be a little bit toxic if you don't find the right people. So it's really something that you have to search for if you are interested in playing. So if you are looking to find a D&D group, the thing I would suggest is, always talk to the people before you actually get started, kind of like an interview. You just want to make sure that you're on the same page with everything.
Yeah, very good point. I won't get into detail on what those folks did, because we're trying to keep this podcast PG-13.
Another day.
But I'll do a PG-13 version of the story one day. But yeah, for now, Austin, 38 years old. My hobbies, I love pretty much anything computers. I like building computers. I like computer gaming. And it's weird because I also work with computers all day long. So you would think that I'd be done with them at the end of the day, but some days that's so, and a lot of days it's not. I'm also a musician. I bring lots of musical instruments into the house, much to Jen's chagrin. I play them with varying degrees of success.
He really does play. That's the thing. It hurts me because I want him to have all the instruments in the world. But at some point, we can't fill our house with all this stuff. So I'm like, no, let's minimize. But he's so dedicated to each instrument. And he ends up feeling bad at some point. It's like, oh, I'm not playing this one enough. And I'm like, that's okay. You're taking a break. You want to play this instrument for a while? You'll jump into that at another time.
Yeah, but the thing about being a multi-instrumentalist is unless you dedicate the time, then you wind up just being mediocre at all of them. So that's where we're at.
I call that multifaceted. And that is a good thing.
There we go. Yeah, so other than that, like movies, I like to travel when I can. We don't do it very often, but sometimes we're able to get out and do a little bit of traveling.
I'm a homebody, so that's why we don't travel much.
Well, ever since COVID, I think we've been more homebodies. We used to keep
true.
the roads pretty hot, but then COVID happened and we had to stay indoors. But
I loved going out before that. I was going out 2-3 times a week to meet new people and just getting out and doing things. And COVID just really made me learn how to stay inside and enjoy life that way.
yeah, we actually like each other's company fairly well. So when they told us we had to stay in and I started working from home full time, then it wasn't a big deal to us. We get to spend a lot of extra time together. So Jen gets to look at my mug pretty much every single day now.
It's wonderful.
Why, thank you. But yeah, that's pretty much me. So I'd like to move on and do a little something fun here. Top 3 favorite movies. What do you think, Jen? What are your top 3?
So I really had to think about this because once again, I'm a movie nerd. I went to college to a art film school. So that's kind of where it all started for me. And it's just one of those things that I kept going back and forth on it. So I've got 3, but there's so many different ones. So I try to categorize it because I got really nerdy with it. I categorized it by 3 different, very different styles. So my third favorite is All Is Quiet on the Western Front. That's the newer version that you can find on Netflix.
It's a good film.
Oh my gosh. I love it so much because it is just so stunning, just visually stunning, just beautiful to look at. But what I really love, I've seen a lot of war movies. And the thing that got me about this film is that it focuses in so much on how isolating war can be. And I feel like that they really honed in on it, and you could feel it like throughout the entire film, just how alone a person can be. And like in other war movies, it's interesting because the main focus is being in the army. You're trying to be with your companions. You're
staying with your unit.
Exactly. Trying to be a family in a sense. Trying to be a community, like Fury, that movie. It was all about being a group, being a collective. And Saving Private Ryan, that's another example. But All Is Quiet on the Western Front was just, it was so amazing. I loved every minute of that one. And my second favorite is Everything and Everywhere All at Once. And that one I saw with my husband in theaters. And what was funny is that we went in it and I told him, I'm picking the movie and you don't get to see what it's about. We just went in it blind. And I had only seen like a couple seconds of the trailer because I didn't want to see all of it. Because a lot of times they just give too much away in the trailers. So I'm like, no, I just want to see a couple seconds. And this seems like it's a good idea. So we'll watch it. And I was really amazed at how good it was. And I loved how it was a comedy. It was action packed. It also had a lot of psychological trauma that they go over. How to how to try to process family trauma. And one of the scenes that really got me was when the mom and the daughter, they become a rock.
Right, yeah.
And they're just sitting there and there's so much silence. It actually gave me anxiety, and it was a scene for me that I was like, I feel like that I got therapy and I needed therapy at the same time. And I was just trying to process it, but I didn't like it at the same time. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too much. But it was so beautiful. And ridiculous to describe on a podcast.
The hot dog fingers.
Yes.
scene.
Oh my gosh.
That's my favorite.
It was beautiful.
Hot dog fingers.
It started out so funny, but then you're like, oh, this is just lovely. We'll never look at hot dogs the same. And my first favorite of all time is Pulp Fiction, which my husband and I watch almost yearly. I'd say maybe a little longer. We stretch it out. But the first time we watched it, and I think this is something that is interesting about a Tarantino film, is that when you first watch one of his films, they're not too interesting at first. They seem very boring, and I was so bored watching it. And it wasn't until near the end where I stopped watching it, and we just were letting it play. And then we got to near the end of Marvin's untimely death. And that was the moment when I was like, wait a minute, this is pretty funny. I might have to go back and watch this. And what I find is in any Tarantino film, you want to watch it at least twice. Give it 2 times, because there's so much that you miss the first time around. And I will argue that you could watch this movie many, many times and still be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice this scene here.
Yeah, lots of nuggets in that one, for sure.
It's so quotable and
very quotable. Of course, all Tarantino movies, I think, are. I think that's one thing Tarantino has down, is coming up with good quotes.
He has... His writing style is so fascinating to me. It's the banter that he gives between 2 characters, where you think that they are talking about absolutely nothing. Like, it just seems completely pointless. But then you realize how important that scene is. And I really love it.
Yeah, it's a super good film. I'm surprised at how many folks our age that I talk to are just like, yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? And so
it's a must watch to me.
I think you got to.
If you can handle, like, there's some, I wouldn't say gory aspects to it, but there's Tarantino likes his blood a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for sure. I wouldn't call it too gory, but, I do think that his films can be like slow burn. You got to hang in there with it.
Absolutely.
And if
you
you're not
really
used
have
to
to
that,
hang in.
Then you got to be patient with it. But I think it pays off. Awesome. So my top 3, I'll try to go through these kind of quickly. My third one is Cloud Atlas. I know it's a movie that's based on a book. And I know that a lot of folks who have seen the movie and read the book prefer the book and say that the movie leaves a lot out. But I just think the film is so well done. Wonderful acting performances from everybody involved. They have to play multiple characters. I think it's got a great balance of comedy and action, and you've got tragedy in there as well. But that's one that I recommend everybody watch.
It's so beautifully written, and I really love that is another movie where you can't just watch it once. You have to keep watching it, and because there's so many things that are hidden within it.
Yeah, I've probably seen it like 5 times now at this point, and there are still little things that jump out at me that I'm like, oh, okay. Did not notice that the first several times around. So, yeah, I think that's part of the problem, too. I think that's part of the reason why folks, kind of don't like it is I don't think they watch it enough. I think you've got to watch it more than once to get it. My number 2 is going to be Throw Mama from the Train. That's another one that I run into a lot of folks who have never heard of it. That one I can kind of understand. It's a little bit more on the obscure side, I think. And oddly enough, I think it's rated fairly low on Rotten Tomatoes for what it is.
It's so underrated.
But it's, I don't know. Like you gotta keep an open mind with it, and I don't want to say that it's not a serious film, but it's really not. Like
it's a comedy.
It's a comedy, and it's a dark comedy. And so if you've got the right mindset going in, then I think you're fine. I think it's just folks who are like wanting a real like independent film cinema experience, and then they sit down and find out it's a comedy and maybe get disappointed.
So what's interesting about that movie is that it's a comedy, and that's what people think going in watching it, but it's also a psychological drama.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes people just kind of question it. They're just not getting that aspect. But essentially what the movie is about is it's about a writer that he's trying to not go mad from trying to write a book, and it's a very interesting perspective, and it's so funny and it's so enjoyable to watch. We watched that probably twice a year.
I would say twice a year. Yeah.
I was thinking that was going to be your number 1, honestly.
It was very close. It was very close. That one is a very close second to Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I had to really sit and think about like what film could I do without between the two of those, and it was tough. But Dirty Rotten Scoundrels came out on top. That's just a wonderful film based on I think a Broadway play, but it's directed by Frank Oz. So if you have heard Frank Oz and you're like, I've heard of the name, but I'm not sure. He was a voice of a lot of the Muppets. He was the voice of Yoda in the original Star Wars. He was the voice of Fozzie Bear and Miss Piggy and a lot of folks on the Muppets.
That's something to point out because the younger generation is not going to know.
It's true. It's true. And if you haven't seen it, go back and watch the Muppets. Muppets are cool. We're not talking about those here on our movie list, but go back and watch the Muppets.
Absolute best.
Yeah, for sure. But he broke away from the Muppets for a little while to do that film, and it's a classic. Wonderful performances from Steve Martin and Michael Caine in that. I became a huge Michael Caine fan after that. Mm-hmm. I already kind of knew about Steve Martin because I had seen some of the other stuff that he had done before I saw Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. But Michael Caine was brilliant in that, and I recommend anybody watch that film. So
the comedy just doesn't end in that one. So I have to ask, what made you choose Dirty Rotten Scoundrels over Throw Mama from the Train? Because I prefer Throw Mama from the Train just because there's a little bit of darkness and you're dealing with a character who is losing his mind in the process, and I enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And like I say, it was a very close second. I mean, I wanted to just say that it was a tie, but it wouldn't be fair because we had to do top 3, and somebody had to take number 1 here.
It's so hard to choose.
It's very hard to choose. I think that Dirty Rotten Scoundrels was also probably a bigger part of my childhood than Throw Mama from the Train was. Like, I watched them both, when I was younger, but it was like a tradition to watch Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and it was like every year around the holidays, oddly enough, because it's not a holiday movie.
No.
But, we're sitting there watching Christmas tapes. I think it was a situation where, and I'm going to very much date myself here, but it's a situation where a lot of our Christmas tapes were recorded on the same tape that Dirty Rotten Scoundrels was recorded on.
Yeah, nobody's going to understand that except...
I'm not going to go into it. Y'all Google VHS tapes if you want to learn more.
Don't. You will be sucked in.
It's a rabbit hole for sure.
Oh my gosh.
But those are my top 3. And probably ranted more on that than I should have, but yeah. Good films, though. Good films that you chose on your end there, Jen.
Yeah, I really love your selection. I
Yeah.
love how, we basically have watched all of these movies together.
Yeah.
And our choices, even though we enjoy a lot of the same films, they turned out completely different.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy because I feel like you and I have different tastes when it comes to like books and movies and stuff, yet there's still a ton of movies that we like to watch together.
So many, yeah.
I think that we our interests intersect at a point where a lot of these movies check boxes for both of us. So, all right. So now I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the podcast. Now that we're like, I don't know, 20 minutes in or something like that. Could have done this at the beginning, but if you're still listening, thanks for hanging on. But the podcast itself, what we're trying to do here is we have, as Jen said, tried to get into a bunch of different D&D groups. It really did not work out for the most part. We finally got into, one or two after years and years of trying, a couple years or more. And what we found that we could sit down and we could play through little one-shots and D&D campaigns with just the two of us. I could DM. I could also play a playable character that sort of helps guide the story. And then Jen would play a playable character, and it worked. It was a system that worked. And so what we really want to do here is we kind of just want to show people that you can play D&D with just two people. It can be done. It's not impossible.
Absolutely.
You may have to do some tweaking on how strong your bad guys are. You may have to do some, tweaking on the story itself, but it's totally doable and still a lot of fun. I know I've talked to some people who are like, well, if you DM, then you don't necessarily enjoy being a player as well. But I kind of disagree with that. I mean, you do know what's going to happen in the campaign, but you get to approach it from a point of, what would this character do? As long as you can step back and say, I have to play like this character would play. Like, I have to do things that this character would do. This character's not going to know X, Y, and Z. And so in the game, they don't.
Yeah, you have your own personal challenges that you have to go through. And you have to do that as a player anyways. Like, there's a ton of stuff that is said above table. And your character, like, you will listen in on somebody else's conversation with someone, and you as a player have to pretend that you didn't hear that because you were not there.
Right.
And so a lot of times, if you are not familiar with D&D, you'll hear somebody say, I relayed this information to everyone involved. That's just so that it is noted and you can be like, okay, now I actually know this information. Now what is my character going to do with this?
Right. How would they react to learning this? So I have a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun DMing and playing at the same time. And we just want to show folks that you can do it.
You're an absolute natural. And I'm so grateful because I am not.
I wouldn't say that. There are lots of things that I do when we're playing through these campaigns, and I take a look and I was like, oh, that was an important piece of information that I was supposed to reveal in that second act, and totally skipped over that part. But if I can pull it off to where you're not aware, then I figure it's a win.
I'm completely oblivious, and the game still works out.
Yeah, as long as we get there. As long as we get to where we're trying to go. But yeah, that's sort of the layout of what we're trying to do. Beyond that, we're hoping that once this thing gets up and running for a while, we want to bring on some guests to play with us. Hoping to bring some folks in. I have some folks that I know from a GURPS group that I played with for a while. Maybe bringing some of those folks in there to play. There are also people who play in a in-person campaign that I DM. We may be able to bring some of them in as well. But yeah, we're wanting to have guests on here from time to time to play with us. And hopefully that will add another little element here that will keep you listening, that in case you get tired of hearing my voice the entire time. Also, just to kind of go over like sort of what our values are, what our rules are as far as how we're going to kind of conduct this, how we're going to conduct ourselves while we play, the guidelines for these campaigns that we're doing. There are going to be certain triggers as we go. D&D has a gratuitous amount of violence in it. That's probably not going to change. Not going to be like, editing that out. There will be a little bit of language too as we go. Most likely will not be excessive. But one thing that we're not going to do is sexual situations and sexual violence. That's something that I sort of draw the line on, and I don't do that in any of my other campaigns that I do in person. So I'm not going to be doing that on the podcast. So we're trying to keep this at an age rating of about PG-13. So that, if you're a teenager, you want to listen, 12, 13 years old, it should be fine to listen to this podcast. You can let your children listen to it, older children, and not have to worry.
Yeah, that's something we talked about extensively because what I had to explain to Austin here is that a lot of women listen to podcasts on the radio, in their car, and throughout the house, and women and men. And, a lot of times they're not able to listen to everything aloud, with their kids around. So I thought it was kind of important that we did D&D campaigns that was actually something that was okay for older kids. So it's not so much of a worry. And you could have a lot of fun with D&D with the sexual aspects. Like one of the things people love to do is falling in love with another character, and we might do something like that, but it's going to be very PG, just nothing too intense.
Yeah, we're talking about, just a romantic relationship. We're not talking about, covering any sexual aspects. But we're wanting to just build a community with as many folks as possible can listen to this podcast and enjoy this show. Another thing that I'd like to go over here is we are LGBTQ plus friendly, and we have played D&D with all types of folks, and we are open to anyone to come on to this show and play with us here.
100%.
That's just something I want to cover. I think in this day and age, it's important too. And beyond that, I'd like to go over sort of our characters that we're going to be doing for episode 1. And Jen, do you want to go ahead and do your character first?
Absolutely. I wanted to talk a little bit about the type of player that I am as a whole before I get into the actual character I'm going to be playing for the first D&D game. So my whole thing is I love the story aspect, so I'm story oriented. I want to have as much detail as possible when playing. The battle scenes I enjoy, but really it's all about the story. And I love exploring the entire world. I really love getting into, like, if we're in a cave, I want to see all the nooks and crannies so that I can find all the goods, all the little treasures. And another thing that I do for characters is I like to do accents, and Austin here also will be doing accents. And
very badly.
It's very poorly done on my part. Austin is an absolute natural at it, and I'm just baffled at how good you are. But for me personally, this is just I don't mean to offend anybody with an accent that I do. I'm not trying to be good at it. I'm just trying to tell a story and have fun with it. So the character that I'm going to be playing is Nyx, and she is what is called an Ashborn. So that's a new type of character that most people may not be familiar with. So that is basically looks like a tiefling, which is a demon looking like character, but she has a scorpion tail. And Ashborn, they are their backstory is that they are born from volcanic ash, and I just thought that was an interesting story. And her character is chaotic neutral, which I kind of go back and forth with what she is exactly, but maybe players that have been doing this a long time can tell me what she is, but I'm pretty sure she's chaotic neutral.
Awesome. Yeah, and good point bringing up the accents. I'm gonna echo that. Please don't get offended. My accents are terrible.
Lies.
You may find that I do an accent for a character, and it's two different accents within the same sentence. But yeah, please don't be offended by that. We're trying to come at this from a very tasteful way, from a very tasteful place, and we are trying our best on these, but
The point is just to tell a story and have fun with it.
right. That's what we're trying to do. Just trying to add some depth to these characters. But as far as my play style goes, I do like story. I do like it to be immersive. Probably a little less so than Jen. There are some D&D YouTube channels that I try to watch from time to time, and one of them that I really like to try to tune in on is Deborah Ann Wall and the games that she does.
Yes.
But where Jen and I kind of differ a little bit is that sometimes those go really in depth with the story. Like we're talking about like the first maybe hour and 20 minutes is just setting the scene.
I love it. I love it so much. I can just immerse myself in it, and just Deborah Ann Wall is amazing.
She's great.
Oh my gosh.
No denying that.
Give me the story. Give me the details.
That being said, I'm not the kind of guy who needs to know what color the doorknob was, to the mansion. I'm okay with not knowing that. It's
if it's
fine.
important, yes.
If it's important to the story, for sure. If there's a puzzle later on that I need to remember that doorknob was green, then that's cool. Put that in. But I think there is a limit to how much story that I kind of want. That being said, I'm not all combat either. I've watched some D&D channels where it's just pretty much strictly combat. They get into combat, stay in there the whole time. I like a good long fight sometimes, but not constantly. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, but one thing that I really like to do with my playing style is to use the environment that's there. For instance, we were doing a campaign the other day where Jen's character jumped up on top of the table. She was a dwarf, and she jumped up on top of the table to get eye level, and I think she stabbed someone through the eye to kill them. But things like that I really like. Another one, for example, was we were in a cave that was filled with stolen provisions, and the goblins had a flood trap in there. They had two separate chambers filled with water. They were able to pull the lever to release the flood. And Jen got the idea. She said, why don't we throw the barrels, the provisions, into this reservoir, pull the lever, and it'll flood those barrels out of the cave.
I have watched The Hobbit way too many times. That was,
Barrel Rider.
That's all I could think of. Yes.
But that was great. I gave her heroic inspiration for that. That's the kind of stuff that I like. Use your environment. I have seen other groups who never use anything. They're the DM will set the scene and say there's these massive chandeliers, and there are these massive freestanding pillars, and no one's ever on some of these we can hide behind the pillar, you can, but they never do that. They never do hide, or they never use their environment. They never say, well, I can cut down this chandelier with a well-aimed arrow and it can fall on my opponent. That's kind of a cliche, but sort of an example there. So I really like using the environment to the fullest.
Yeah, I really enjoy that stuff, and it can be difficult to remember what your surroundings are if you don't have the table set up. You can't visually see what is actually going on. So if somebody describes the room to you, and then all of a sudden you have five guys that are attacking you, you're not paying attention too much on what's actually there. You're just trying to survive.
True, and that brings up another point about my playstyle. I have to, if it comes to a point where the room or the location we're at is elaborate, I have to draw it out. I have to either draw it out or have a map ready, because even, me as the DM, I'm not going to remember everything that's in that room until I draw it out. And I think it helps the players too to be able to visually see what's in there. You can describe it, but I'm so ADD, I'm never going to remember it. If someone describes it to me and I don't have something visual, I'm never going to remember what's in there. So that's a good point. All right. Well, I think we've covered about everything we want to cover for this intro, and probably a little bit more. But episode 1 is coming up, and that is for the Presto Changeo one shot out of the Game Master's book of random encounters, and we're going to see you then.
Yeah, and if you guys want to just for fun leave a little message on what your favorite movie is, I love hearing from everybody and hearing what they like, and yeah,
discover a lot of good films that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, give us some stuff, because we've seen a lot of things, and I'm always looking for a new movie to get into.
For sure. All right, folks. Well, stay tuned for the next episode, and we'll catch you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.